have enough money or resources or wealth to buy my left arm. And that's when I stepped back and I smiled. I said, if you mean to tell me your left arm is worth more than all the money in the world, why would you let your employer pay you less than $100,000 for 40 years of your life for everything from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet? The person went, oh, gotcha. So now if your left arm is priceless, how dare you allow someone else to tell you the value of your time at 40 hours a week for 40 years is only worth $50,000 a year or $60,000 a year or $100,000 a year, especially when you add this information. Did you know that the average employee only makes 3 to 10 cents for every dollar you make for the employer? That means he keeps 90 to 97% of everything that you generate. You want to know why he gets $1 million bonuses at the end of the year? It's your 90 to 97 cents. So now here I am knocking on corporate America's door. Nobody's going to let me in. You know what they kept telling me? Oh, you got a great looking resume, man. Oh, I love those shoes, exotic skin shoes, man, custom suit, but you don't have any experience. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. The formula that was given to me by the person who took care of me my whole life was go to school, get an education, get a good job, make a lot of money, be successful. Now you're trying to tell me that to go to school and get an education was my responsibility, but there was some fine print between getting a good education and getting a job? Where's the fine print? Show me the documentation. I did my part, and now I'm expecting you to do your part. And here's what I've learned. 78% of the people who actually graduate, forget about the other people who don't. The 78% of the people who do graduate never find jobs in their field of study. And that's a governmental statistic. So isn't your government stating in no uncertain terms you've effectively wasted your time? Not to mention, now you're in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. I mean, it's bananas when you sit down and actually think about it. The system that is in place is not designed for you to win. If you're giving away 90 to 97 cents for every dollar you make, then isn't that alarming enough? Isn't that enough for us to start a financial revolution today? At what point do you stop saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, it's my fault. My senior partner has often said, if you're born poor, there's nothing you can do about that. But if you die poor, that's your responsibility. Shame on you. And if you die poor, you condemn your children to the very same fiscal challenges that you had to endure. Shame on us if we're not going to give our children a fighting chance. Now, I want you to think about Adam again. He left his children with all his land. They, in turn, never had to worry about food, clothes, or shelter. The divine principle says a wise man creates an inheritance for his children's children. I want to die a wise man. It doesn't say how much education you have or lack thereof. It doesn't say how many friends you've made. It says a wise man creates an inheritance for his children's children. Even if you only got one tooth in your head, you can still die a wise person for creating an inheritance for your children's children. But if I'm struggling to make ends meet, if I've got more month than money, if I've gotten so good from robbing Peter to pay Paul that they're both looking for me, then I'm on a sure path of destruction. I'm going to leave my children with grief and debt. And then shame on me. I've condemned my children and they deserve whatever they get because of my lack of responsibility. So look, today is Freedom Friday. We got dressed up for y'all. We wanted to kind of pour ourselves out to help you recognize this life is fleeting. I went to bed last night as a 20-year-old. I woke up this morning as a 40-year-old. I'm going to go to bed tonight as a 40-year-old. I'm going to wake up tomorrow as a 60-year-old. And if the average person lives from 72 to 77 and you're already 40 years old, you're blown past the halfway mark. We better get to work because before too long, as you've recognized, Time starts to go faster as you get older. We've got an awful lot of work to do. And so in September 23rd, 2013, after going through corporate America, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, trying to figure out how to get to the corporate offices, trying to come in early to stay late, I was Employee of the Month more times than anybody else, and I was the first person to go because they recognized I could very well be a threat to management. If he's that good, then where is he aspiring to go next? Maybe we should expand his territory and make it impossible for him to hit his goals. Maybe we should make it so difficult that he can no longer perform at the level that we hired him to perform at. Maybe even though he's been to the President's Club 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and now he's a celebrity in our organization, maybe, just maybe, he's not going to fit into the corporate culture. So now what are you going to do? I've been laid off so many times, I forgot what kind of work I'm out of. I started looking for opportunity. If anybody was going to take care of me, I recognized that no one was going to do it better than I would. And I made some promises to Mama. And even though corporate America wouldn't see to it that I could satisfy those promises, I still wanted to keep those promises. Lost Mama in 2011. But I was able to keep a couple of those promises. I told Mama I was going to buy her first home. I told Mama I was going to bring her home from work. And I told her I was going to fly her around the world in an effort to say thank you for all that you've given to me. I was able to get that first one done. Bought Mama her first house. Never had a house before her son. I was able to do that. I was thankful that I was able to do that. But I failed miserably because at 77 years old, July 11, 2011, I lost Mama. And it wasn't tragic that we lost her. She was 77. It wasn't tragic that she died of stage 4 cancer. She smoked like a chimney. You should expect her to have cancer. But she died fully employed because she couldn't afford to stay retired. Now, this was the person who taught me how to use a knife and fork. By the age of 3 years old, I used a knife and a fork to the bewilderment of all the other adults who would watch this wonder kid prodigy cut his food with a knife and fork. She taught me how to tuck my napkin in my little shirt so that I wouldn't get food all over my clothes when I sat at the table. She taught me how to use good manners like yes, sir, and no, ma'am. She taught me how to open a door for a lady and be a gentleman. She taught me how to put my belt on when I was in 2nd grade. She taught me how to keep my manners about me when everything around me was catastrophically falling apart. My mom taught me an awful lot. She was the best teacher I ever had, but there were some things that she couldn't teach me because she just didn't know. And I believe if she knew how to help me become financially independent, she would have taught that to me too. But there's a divine principle that says you can't teach somebody what you don't know. And so Mama couldn't help me get there. So all my life I struggled in an effort to get there, thinking that the corporate model was the way to get there. But if I'm only making 3 to 10 cents for every dollar I make for the company, and then the government taxes me 30 to 50% on the 3 to 10 cents that I get to keep, and of course I have a stack of residual bills that chip away at that income every 30 days, how is it that you ever going to save up enough money to do any of the financial things that you want to do? You've got to figure out a way to get paid differently. The way we've been paid all of our lives is linear income. Linear income determines that you trade your time for money. And we've already discussed this. First of all, the first issue is someone else determines for you what your time is worth. We've already agreed that your time is priceless. But we've also concluded without implicitly stating that you've agreed to be subjugated to someone else's will so that you can get a check at the end of the month. You know what we call that where I come from? It's called selling out. You've sold yourself into slavery, ladies and gentlemen, and you didn't even realize it. But now the awakening is beginning. You're starting to remember the value that you have. You're starting to remember who you are and to whom you belong. And so with those ideals in mind, you can get back to believing you deserve to have the dreams that float around in your head, and you got to believe you deserve to have it. And when you've got those two things down, all you need is a plan. If you've been earning linear income your whole life, let me just tell you this. It's the complete antithesis of creating wealth. How do wealthy people get and stay wealthy? Residual income. It's a divine principle. It must work, irrespective of your religious predisposition. You just need to learn how to get it into your house. And so here's how wealthy people stay wealthy. They find enough residual income to match the residual bills, and everything they add on top of that or earn above that creates wealth. What? Meanwhile, me and you, we don't even have enough money to get to the end of our month. And we start taking the money that we have in this month to pay next month's bills because of linear income. You must have residual income. It's the only way known to man to create, sustain, and perpetuate wealth. It's the reason that Michael Jackson made more money last year alone than in any single year he was alive. How does a dead guy out-earn everybody in your household? Very simple. He gets paid differently. He gets paid residually. You and I get paid linearly. On September 23rd, 2013, somebody had the courage enough to introduce me to this business, which allows you and I, average people, to get paid residually. And I'm excited about the 5 Links business opportunity because I recognize that when I first heard about it, it wasn't a household name. And many of you who are joining us, you guys realize it's not a household name. But in spite of the fact that you've never heard it, watch this. They're still a $162 million debt-free company. They've still been featured in just about every major business magazine that comes across the newsstand, to include Wall Street Journal, MSNBC News, Your Business at Home magazine 4 times, Success from Home magazine 5 times, Inc. 500 5000 9 times. The only other company that has done that on North American soil is Microsoft. And just think about this. The Inc. 500 5000 lists the nation's fastest growing privately held companies, and there are over 27 million privately held companies in the United States. If we are therefore in the top 5,000, we are the upper crust. And so it's okay if you never heard of us. I bet you heard of some of the companies that we partnered with. We partner with all the major players that do cable, internet, home phones, cell phones, gas, electricity, home heating oil, health insurance. Companies that I'm sure you're familiar with, like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, Nextel, GE, DirecTV, Dish Network, Comcast, Xfinity, Cox, Cablevision, OptOnline, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and about a half a dozen other companies. Those companies you're familiar with, not necessarily because they're the best at what they do, but because you've watched their TV commercials. You see them on the billboards when the bus drives by. You see them on the billboards when you're driving down the highway. You hear them on the radio every day, every day. But when was the last time you were driving home after a long, hard day worth of work, and your boss found a way to get on the last nerve? All week he was working on the other nerves, but today he got on your last nerve. Now you're finally in the car, you got the radio playing, and you're stuck in traffic because that's what happens in rush hour. And you see a Sprint billboard and you yank your car over 3 lanes because you got to make a phone call before you drive past the sign. Has that ever happened for you? Never or never? But Sprint still has to pay for the commercial, don't they? Of course they do. Now they will write the check, but you pay the bill. You want to know why your rates are so high? It's because you pay the bill. And the largest line item in the expense payable column is advertising. So they simply pass on the expense to you. 2004, snotty-nosed kid drops out of Harvard. Wait a minute. He drops out of Harvard? Yep. Develops a social media experiment called Facebook? Becomes the youngest billionaire to ever walk the planet? Yeah, that's right. So wait a minute. Education is not commensurate with income? Never has. Isn't that why Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard and became the wealthiest man on the planet? Yeah. So don't let anybody tell you go to school, get an education, you get a good job, make a lot of money, be successful, when the majority of the millionaires that have ever walked the planet never graduated college. But that's not my lesson today. We'll come back to that. Let's put a pin in that. We'll come back. So in 2004, this young man starts this social media experiment called Facebook and becomes a billion-dollar entity in less than 10 years. Big business goes, wait a minute, he's never run TV ads. He's never run commercials. He's never run billboards or radio ads. What are we doing wrong? And so they decided to switch their marketing strategy to partner with a company that uses social media and word of mouth to get customers. They hired the #1 customer acquisition company in the United States. 5 links. We promised to get them all the customers that they wanted for free. Free because, #1, it saves them millions of dollars. #2, now they can pass the savings back to the consumer. And #3, they pay us 50 cents to $11 every time that consumer pays their bill. Now that sounds awfully good. Looks good on paper. I don't believe it. Usually, coming from New York, I'm a huge skeptic, and if it sounds too good to be true, if it smells too good to be true, if it feels too good to be true, if it looks too good to be true, typically, it's too good to be true. But remember, somebody that I love, trust, admired, and respected introduced me to the business, and I did my preliminary research. And I discovered in the midst of all of the accolades that this company had achieved, they're still growing. So I said, what have I got to lose? If it don't work, I could always go back to being hardworking and broke. After all, I was pretty good at that. And most of us are. Man, we dress up real nice and we look good. We look sugar sharp for everybody around us. But inside, we're slowly dying. So I decided to do something different so I could have something different. And I got started. I switched over to services in my own home: cable, internet, home phone, cell phone, gas, electricity, home heating, oil, health insurance. I just wanted to see if it would work. Man, I started saving close to $200 a month. Mama used to say, remember this, Mama used to say, a penny saved is a penny earned. So I gave myself a $200 a month raise, and I didn't need no tap shoes or a top hat dancing on my boss's desk begging for more money. By simply switching over my services from name brand companies to other name brand companies, I gave myself a $2,400 a year raise. What would $2,400 a year do for you and your family? A lot or a little? You don't even have to answer it. I already know the answer. And at the end of the month, they gave me a check for all the bills that I was going to pay anyway. So wait a minute. 5 links will actually pay me to save money on bills that I was going to pay for anyway? Yes. Now, I know under normal circumstances, it flies in the face of everything you've been taught. But didn't I tell you, you've got to do something different in order to have something different? And the largest challenge for those of you who are watching, especially if you are even moderately intelligent, is that it's so simple, you won't believe it. But we've helped corporate attorneys make $1 million incomes. If you behave yourselves, I'm going to introduce you to one. We've helped bus drivers make $1 million incomes. And it's the simplicity which makes it attractive. It's simple to learn, simple to do, simple to teach. We've helped convicted felons become financially independent. You mean to tell me you've got people fresh out of the penitentiary who can't even get a second chance in society, now financially independent, like the original divine design that we see in the creation story? Exactly. So look, I recognize that I haven't given you enough information to make a decision. All I want you to know is this business is a real business for real people who are ready to do some real work to affect a real change and make some real money. Because right now, we're working for peanuts. And chances are, if you are an elephant, you wouldn't be on the line. So let's take a good look at this opportunity. And if it makes sense to you, it's going to make sense to people you know. And if it makes sense to people you know, it'll make dollars and cents for you. Because of this business opportunity, I was able to get my children into a very private and elite private school. I wouldn't have been able to afford it had it not been for this opportunity. And by the end of this year, I expect to be completely and utterly unemployable. That means there's nobody on the planet that will be able to buy my freedom because I'm just that valuable. And so look, I'm going to send you to a quick video, www.5 LINX as in X-ray, PAYS as in Sally, M as in money, E as in Edward. Take a look at the video and get back to the person who introduced you to this opportunity. I'm sure you either want to save money or you want to make money. And we'll figure out a series of next steps to help you accomplish whatever your heart's desire. And so listen, the next person up to bat, corporate attorney who used to be the chief attorney for BET Television. responsible for inking the largest deal in the history of TV media, which culminated in creating one of the 6 African-American billionaires on the planet, Mr. Bob Johnson. He's a best-selling author, one of the most sought-after speakers in our industry, the #1 money earner in the history of our company at his position, and has broken every record to his current position and is on par to break another record because he's about to get promoted again. And needless to say, for me, I have a tremendous amount of respect for him because he knows 100% of what it takes to succeed in business. He's had an awful lot of success in a very abbreviated amount of time. He's made all $1.5 million of his dollars helping people just like you and I create above average income, and he's having an awful lot of fun doing it. So without any further ado, it is my esteemed honor to introduce to some and present to others top producing, top money earning, best-selling author of a book called Redefining the American Dream. Here is Platinum Senior Vice President, soon to be double platinum, Thomas the Maestro Felder.
Boy, oh boy. Where do you start after an introduction like that? I'm excited, everybody. Today is Freedom Friday. Today is Freedom Friday, and we give more than we normally give on Friday. You know, we give so much on Friday because we know that this week was hard. We know that people were pressing down on you, stepping down on you, and we know that you got to try to figure out how to get through the weekend. We know that you're going to try to get some party on tonight, maybe. Most of us are going to drag ourselves home, sleep most of the weekend, and then drag ourselves back to work. So we intend every time we get on this call to give you some motivation, some inspiration, some education, and we want you to take that information and use it towards making financial freedom. Our goal is to make sure that you have 6 days of Sundays and 1 Saturday. I want you to get to the point that you never know what day of the week it is because they all feel the same. We want to make sure that you are not stressed out by traffic. The only traffic that we want you to have is going from your upstairs to your downstairs. Traffic in my house is when the girls are going in the opposite direction on the stairwell. That's what we call traffic. But today is Freedom Friday, and Ray Hendrickson did an awesome and incredible job. He broke this thing down from the top to the bottom so a 3-year-old could understand what they've got to do to be financially free. But I want to talk to some of y'all on this call. Some of y'all on this call, you say to yourself, Thomas, I'm not lazy, but I still feel broke. Thomas, I'm very ambitious, but I'm still broke. Thomas, I'm motivated, but I still feel broke. Thomas, I got more degrees than 2 thermometers. My degrees have degrees, and I'm still broke. Thomas, I've done my best. And I want to tell you, if you're on this call today and you're not lazy, you're very ambitious, you're motivated, you're smart, got good grades, went to school, got a bunch of degrees, and you've been doing your best. It doesn't mean that any of those things were wrong, but doing your best will never get you financially free. It's got everything to do with your system and who's your mentor. That's all it is. I mean, if I hung out with LeBron James, and I did it for a couple of summers, I will probably be the best basketball player in my immediate circle. I may not make it in the NBA, but just immediately changing my circle, being around him, watching what he does, following how he gets up, how he practices his shots, my stock will go up immediately because I would be following LeBron James's system and he would be my mentor. That's all it is. You know, long before they had law schools, people would hang out with lawyers, and they called it apprenticeships. And they would follow the lawyer around and do whatever they did, study whatever they studied, and in a little while, they became a lawyer. Same thing with med school, right? Before there were med schools, if you wanted to be a doctor, you followed around a doctor, you carried his bag, you did what he asked you to do, and after a while, you gained all the skills that you needed to become a good doctor. And you ask me, why don't they do that anymore? Well, because they wanted to turn our educational system into an institution. Are you with me? They couldn't make the kind of money that they're making now if they left the system in place. We will probably have better doctors. We will probably get better care, but the institution would not be fed. They had to figure out a way for you to pay $250,000 to get out of school and for 7 years make $30,000 to $50,000 as a doctor. You know that's what they make. Same thing with lawyers. And that's why we love to say we're practicing, because we're never getting paid what we're truly worth. I want to tell you that we have introduced a system where we can help anybody on this call make 6 figures a year, and you can do it from home. I'm on this call every single day, so I can't be faking it, y'all. I can't be faking a Bentley that I show you every day. I can't be faking that I tip away from my job and come home every day at noon just to trick y'all. It's almost like Oprah Winfrey. What's that, Color Purple? And she talks about all my life I had to fight. I had to fight my daddy. I had to fight my brothers. I had to fight my cousins and my uncles. And she said, a girl can't be safe in a family of men. But I never thought I had to fight in my own house. Yep. If y'all want to be successful and you want to be financially free, you got to fight. Just like in The Color Purple. Don't ever expect to be successful and reach the next rung in life without a challenge. The challenges are waiting for you. And sometimes you're going to run into people who tell you can't do it, because there are 2 types of people in the world. There's somebody out there that says, if you make it out of the same system that I came from, you mean that you became a lawyer and we both lived in the same projects? You mean you became a millionaire and we went to the same church? You mean you became a millionaire and we went to the same or had the same business? And somehow they indict themselves. So there are people who don't want you to succeed, and they're fearful of your success, and they try to put a mental load on you. They try to put a bunch of fear and doubt on you. And then you carry that fear and doubt around. It's like a prison. You walk around with it, and you can't even fight your way out of it. I'm telling you that the biggest thing that you've got to do is get out of the fear. Believe that you can be successful